What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome to another version of the Tuffy Talk live show, baby. We appreciate all y'all tuning in here. Thank you so much for joining. We're so excited to get rolling. I do want to go ahead and give a little bit of a heads up that so basically today, over the weekend, obviously all the Tuffy Talk crew, we talk about, what we're going to be doing, the schedule for this week, things like that. And there was a bunch of people that wasn't able to make it today because of work. And but didn't really kind of keep good enough track of it that I figured out today, right before I got on the show, that man, literally the whole crew is out on the road. And poor Ken's would have been here, but her power got knocked out because of the storm. So it's literally just me here today. So that's why I said, you know what, show must go on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open this show up to our viewers. So if you want to join in here on the show, make sure to hit that link, the StreamYard link, and then we will bring you in here to discuss all things NC State here. Wanted to real quick, we actually have Greg who's riding right now, so he couldn't necessarily join us, but I wanted to at least bring him in here just to kind of get a few words specifically about this baseball thing. But once again, if you've been with us for, at least send us a comment, let us know what questions, concerns you got. But also to, if you just want to just, put them in the chat, even too, make sure to do that as well. And again, we'll see where this thing goes. With that being said, let's go ahead and bring Greg in. Greg, you got me, man?
I got you. You got me, brother?
I got you, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time, man. And, you're riding, so, who knows what's going to happen with the internet and all that jazz. But I know that, the biggest thing was we had come out with the news today about Cannon Peebles and, the news that it was his decision to transfer was primarily focused on playing time. And I know you had the honor of putting together that tweet for us. And, kind of give it to me, man, without, talking too much about your, about your source and all that jazz. I mean, what was your initial reaction when you saw the news that Camp Peebles was moving on, man?
Yeah, obviously disappointment. It's a guy that you hope that you could build around for the next couple of years. But at the same time, if you've watched enough Pac-9 baseball this year, you know why he had to do what he did. This is a guy that didn't play a lot in the field, though he was more than capable. But, with Cozart being, the level of player that he is, Cannon was going to scratch and claw for playing time again next year. So it just makes sense from everyone's, perspective that it was kind of a, quote unquote clean break.
Yeah, I get with that. Yeah, no. And again, I think, unfortunately it's a tough decision, but choosing between, a guy that could have a higher ceiling than Cozart, but I mean, Cozart's been, unanimously considered one of the top catcher, prospects out there in college baseball. And so to let him go, on top of him being a solid hitter as well, it'll be a tough pill to swallow, with as much experience as he has, even though Cannon does have a lot of upside. So, but just it would just be a huge gamble. So, which, especially I think that in today's day and age, leadership goes a long way. So, but, it was good to hear at least that, it wasn't anything specific. I know a lot of people say, well, I just have a hard time believing that there wasn't NIL related. And, I think that, it would be crazy to say he's not going to probably get some kind of NIL at the next, at his next stop, which I think that, honestly, to me, Greg, I think the decision of his next stop will raise a curiosity flag in my head. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like with Tommy going to LSU. It's like, yeah, I'm just putting two and two together there. You know what I mean? But I mean, like, it was good to at least hear, from a source close to the source that, he wanted to share publicly that, he had no ill intent, when leaving here. It was a tough decision, obviously, to leave. So it was good to hear that, at least, so.
Yeah, honestly, I think it was more the way the conversation went was more of, hey, this isn't on AVIT and coaching staff at NC State. I was told that, Cannon loved his time at NC State, will always, cherish the season he had here. There was no ill will, nothing nefarious that drove him to this decision. It was merely that, look, this is Cozart's junior year, which we all know is your MLB draft year. So this is the year that the player has the leverage and not the team, right? Because if you get drafted as a senior, the team has all the leverage for your contract, where in the junior year the player does. So, they want to give Cozart his opportunity to, get drafted, and then same with Cannon. This is a year of development where we saw what he could do as a hitter, but again, he didn't get a lot of playing time. If you followed again the Pac-9, you saw probably the last month and a half, Cozart caught just about every darn inning there was. So I just don't see that changing. And so this was the time for Peebles to make or break. And so he decided what he decided to do to give way to the upperclassmen.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that being said, Greg, I wanted to kind of hold you on here. We got one of our members, one of our Discord members, one of our longtime followers here, Hunter, waiting for us here in the queue, man. So I wanted to go and bring Hunter in here to the conversation and see what thoughts, questions he's got. So, Hunter, you got me, man?
Hey, man, I didn't realize you were on vacation this week. Just getting started, but it's we've had some tough losses last couple of years, losing players. I definitely think we're going to have to get used to that. I know our NL guys are working very hard, but we've just got to continue to support that as much as we can. We've always been so driven to support the Wolfpack Club, as we all know on here, but things have changed so much, and I don't have a ton to say, but it seems like that's just so important. I mean, listen to Keith speak and all that in Wilmington, everybody, facilities matter, and I know they do, but these kids want to see some cash, man.
No, I mean,
that's kind of, I hate to say it, that's all I got to say. We need to find the money if we can.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with it. I think, it'll be curious what happens. I know that Alex Sosa, the other recruit catcher that we have coming in, I mean, he's going to be, a pretty big recruit if he can stay at state, and because I think he's going to go, he'll definitely get drafted. So it'll be just, I think, a big question of, does he stay in the MLB farm league, or does he come to state? So I think that'll be a big question. But I mean, I think for Sosa, I think the opportunity is there to say, he can have a year to be under Cozart, and then, then the following year it's his job. But I think the problem with Cannon is the fact that, he's a hot commodity right now, and there's a lot of eyes on him, and the fact that he still would have to be behind Cozart next year. So I think it's kind of like, strike while the iron's hot. His equity, it may go up, but I mean, he had a great freshman year, so that I think that's kind of the question that was going through his head, and especially too that if he does want to get drafted after his junior year, then he predominantly he preferably would want more than 1 year to start. You know what I mean? To kind of develop, especially with the catcher game, because I mean, the catcher is not an outfield where you can just throw. I mean, most people who are fast and have some sort of a glove can go and play in the outfield. But with the catcher, there's a lot more to it with chemistry with the pitchers. Being able to to control the ball, to control the pitches. So it's just it's a little bit tougher there. It's so. That's just my 2 cents on it. But I mean, definitely tough. But to me, it's just like, what, and I said this on Twitter, but at the end of the day, keep in mind, for all of all of the people watching, especially with talking about Avent, that unless something crazy happens between now and the season starting, he's going to be our head ball coach next season. So to me, when I said earlier, well, we got to trust Avent, it's first of all the fact that I just have to remind all fans once again that we're not in the locker rooms, and again, I could say that being for a football equipment manager, that a lot of the stuff that we, like, us as fans, we only see a small percentage of what actually happens in the big picture within the locker room, on the practice field, all that, in the meeting rooms, all that jazz. And so to me, that's why I always try and be hesitant, to jump to conclusions, because then we don't know we don't know the big picture. We don't know, what kind of conversations the coaches have been having. At the end of the day, they're the experts. Well, sorry, Hunter, I muted you. Go ahead, Hunter. No, you're good. No.
in the past, it's always been if people leave, it's for a reason they're unhappy.
Right.
Like I said, the landscape has just changed so much, and we deal with the turnover in basketball. We're looking at that. It's kind of humbling for us because we're not used to it so much. But I mean, we're going to have a lot of guys coming in and out. We're going to gain some amazing players when other people leave. I mean, people want to play baseball at NC State. We've got a lot of great players coming in every year. I mean, we have the program is a healthy program. It's been built for years. I'm not worried about that. I know we all want to take that step and be able to win win a national title. But I mean, we're there. We're getting there. We've been there twice in 10 years, 11 years. Like we're knocking on the door. I don't care what happened this year, but I love our baseball program, and the facility upgrades are great. And I think we'll figure it out. I trust all these guys involved. I do.
Exactly. Yep. Well, because once again, I mean, Avon's been coaching baseball for, well over 30, 40 years, you know what I mean? So, and none of us probably commenting on Avon's, status of, or talking about the baseball team have that experience. So, it's kind of hard. Now, I mean, again, do we have the right to ask questions, to raise concerns? Absolutely. I mean, that's our right. And again, I would be concerned if fans didn't care, I mean, and Debbie Al even said, you want fans to care. It's always a balance. It's a tough balance for sure, between trying to raise concerns. Cause I mean, even for me, it's definitely a big concern, wondering what's next for this program, because we have so many transfers that are leaving. But yeah, no. And I mean, hey, even with basketball and football, actually, I don't even say football. I would just say the whole transfer portal thing in general. It's just very obvious that unfortunately the name on the jersey does not mean what it did 5 years ago and then more. We just entered a new age where just unfortunately loyalty to a school, and even loyalty to a coach is not really as much of a thing anymore. And it's unfortunate we're in that era, but I guess my initial reaction is this unfortunate. Why? Because again, I mean, I think that's what all of our fans love. We love players who play for their school, who think more about the name on the front than the name on the back. Guys that stay at the school, that develop at the school, that the fans grow to love, that fans grow to appreciate. And it's just, we're just not there anymore. Again, I mean, last year alone, I think there was over 12,000, over 10,000 Division I players between all sports that put their name in the transfer portal, which is definitely by far the highest it's ever been, numbers wise. It's crazy, where we are in today's day and age. But I mean, on the positive side is that, the bad situation of, well, what if, a recruit shows up at a school and then the coach leaves for another job the following week. And, that's kind of the opposite side of why the transfer portal is a benefit. But, it's definitely much more of a business decision now than necessarily a loyalty or it's to me, it's more of just, it should be more about focusing and enjoying the opportunity you have right now. I still remember to this day back in 2014 when Eric Thomas, a big motivational speaker, came and spoke at State. You could see still his speech on YouTube, and and he was his biggest thing was taking advantage of the opportunity you have now, that that this time these 4 years are going to be gone before you can even blink. And again, I mean, right now you're getting meals prepped for you. You're getting to play in multi-million-dollar stadiums in front of over 55, almost 60,000 fans for football. In a packed arena and PNC Arena against some of the best competition AC has to offer. And get your education paid for. Even right now with NIL, take a little bit of money and put it in your pocket, no matter what. I mean, it's a perfect scenario right now for any student athlete, anybody who's 18, 22 years old. And because I know that a lot of them are trying to set it for the next stages, like for baseball players, they're trying to, work and be ready to go to MLB, and if, football, go to NFL, whatever that may be. But at the end of the day, I mean, only less than 1% of athletes will end up making a professional roster. And so just to me, as much as I understand it, for sure, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business decision. You're trying to make the best decision for you and your family, which is tough. It's a very tough decision. It's a game change. It's a life-changing decision whenever you decide to commit to a school, whenever you decide to transfer. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting here saying too, like, just enjoy the ride a little bit more. That'd be my biggest thing is, like, do what's best for you 100%. But I also know that over 40% of players who put their name in the transfer portal between all sports are either remove their name from the portal, are still in the portal, or have given up the sport altogether. Just because, again, I mean, the over 10,000 players in all of Division One sports have put their name in the portal, and there's not going to be 10,000 spaces for all of them. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just my piece of it, But again, I'm not sitting here saying that players shouldn't transfer, but what I am saying is that maybe that I wish that players would enjoy the opportunity, compete, and at the end of the day, trust their gut from that they originally learned when they got to the school. But again, I know that a lot of things can change, such as again, players will say, that I know that when people kind of gave feedback, when players gave feedback of why they entered the name in the transfer portal, one of the biggest things was mental health issues. Whether that means that they're too far from their family, maybe a coach they're not getting along with, the pressure overall, being at big time schools, and maybe they want to go somewhere a little bit smaller, like whatever their case may be. Completely understand that. You got to do the best, for yourself, and whatever it takes mentally to keep yourself right. But anyway, so there we go. Yeah, sorry, Hunter, you're all bopping around, but
Yeah, man,
you're good.
It's crazy. I mean, it's not college sports anymore. You
No.
can't really label it pro, but without a salary cap. I say this. I'm fine with NIL, but you've got to have the transfer rule again. I know people don't want to hear that, but I think that's the only way to kind of even it out when we're paying guys, and I want to pay them. But there's I don't know if you need a commissioner, but you've got to make some changes, man.
Yeah. Well, and I think that because the rule right now, if I'm not mistaken, because just like it is with Diamond, is that there is I think a certain rule where you can't, after you transfer the first time. Okay, because I think that's what happened. I think that if after you transfer the first time, if you transfer a second time to I think another Power 5 school, then you have to sit out, which I think is part of the decision why she decided to go to Norfolk State. If I'm not mistaken, that would be my guess of why she decided to go to Norfolk State, along with just the HBCU side. But like so somebody can still transfer, and there's still the grad transfer rules, and meaning that you can still transfer as a grad transfer and be eligible immediately. Like just like what Ryan Finley did, even though he still had 2 more years of eligibility, he was technically a grad transfer, so he could be eligible immediately, transferring over NC State from Boise State. But yeah, I know. We have said from. Go ahead.
That's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that in any way. Diamond Johnson, I tell you what, they're going to be tough. You watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Norfolk State with Diamond Johnson. Heck yeah, that's quite an upgrade for them for sure. But I think we can all agree that with the transfer portal, with Diamond moving on, with Jada and Jakia moving on, that there was obvious chemistry issues on the court last year that you just couldn't ignore. They were obvious. They were just smacking you right in the face, and it wasn't like something that we had to work through. Like, it was there the whole season. Just effort wasn't there. The energy wasn't there. Isaiah James. Yeah. Well, Isaiah James really the only person I feel like on the court that that was bringing the energy besides Mimi Collins. I would say that would be my 2 people. So it was just off from previous years. So that's why, again, like we're going to talk a little bit about football recruiting here, but to me, today's day and age, high school recruiting is just not as much of a priority as it used to be. Because again, look at basketball. Most all of their guys that they've gotten, besides the Parker brothers, one Trey Parker who decided to stay back at Overtime Elite, like we only have one true freshman coming in, but the rest of them are all transfers. Between DJ Horn and Ben Middlebrooks and all those guys, Burns, they're all transfers. So, and same thing with football is that if Dorn needed to, he could go find any need that he needed to in the transfer portal, and and he's done that. So it's completely changed in terms of coaching. And see, that's my only worry with Avent is the fact that, I almost kind of wish that I saw more with them. Because, like, you see Keats, for example, you see Dorn that have made videos promoting Savage Wolves, promoting Pack of Wolves to get involved, things like that. But you haven't seen that with Avent. Now, again, I'm not necessarily saying that he doesn't support them at all. That's definitely not what I'm saying, but just saying that I think that I wonder, does he see how much of a priority NIL is now in today's day and age? And because I think that with baseball, that I don't know if state has really taken that next step in terms of devoting NIL funds to baseball yet. That's just my 2 cents on it, but totally speculation there. But again, I mean, I think like Inside Pack Sports, like at the meet, were you at the meet the pack day, Hunter, for baseball?
I couldn't make it, unfortunately. I wish I could have. I couldn't make it that weekend.
That's right. Yeah. So, but like, like Inside Pack Sports had their little table with Cozart and one other player. I can't remember who it was. So, there was definitely some NIL, involved there. But just nothing of a major priorities. So, it's just something to think about. But I think that right now, with the amount of guys we have in the pros, with the amount of, upgrades that we're going through right now, with the history that state baseball has, again, just like you said, being a two, Omaha's in the past 10 years, and the fact that we probably should have won it back in 2021, it's, Avon has all he needs. And also to the fact that there's no question of, if you come to state and if Avon decides to leave after next season, there's no question of who the next head coach is going to be. He's right there, Chris Hart. He's ready to go. So to me, he has everything he needs besides the NIL, besides really that NIL commitment, which again is total speculation. But that's kind of really my 2 cents on it. But anything else to add on that, Hunter, before I let you go here, man? Any other last comments?
Thank you for having me. I didn't even realize it was going to be like this, but I love you, man. Y'all do a great job, and
appreciate it.
I'm always listening, man.
Appreciate you, Hunter. Thank you, man. All right, appreciate it, Hunter. Bye. All right. So with that being said, make sure once again, y'all, to hit that link here in the comments if you want to join in here on the show. We'll love to chat with you here. Again, this is just me here today. A little bit of a different show here today, but we'll love to hear your thoughts, questions as we go here. Do want to bring in some of Greg's comments here. If you want to make one criticism of Coach Avent, it's not playing Peebles enough behind the plate. Kozar caught 95% of possible innings. Yep, that's 100% true. Just not a lot of back and forth, for sure. And Dave, I see you're in here waiting with us, and I'll bring you in here in 1 second. If you play Peebles more innings, you keep Kozar more fresh, so he is sharper behind the plate and hitting at a higher clip in the end of the season. Again, that completely agree with that, Greg. And Kozar's IPS guy. Maybe it was Groover, Greg. I think that might be right. That makes sense there. But yeah. So again, and Dave, man, lost Dave. Dave jumped out. But again, y'all. So again, if you want to join in here with me, we're completely available right now. So make sure to hit that link if you want to join in with me here, and we'd love to chat all things NC State here with you. But again, y'all, just with the transfer portal the way it is in today's day and age, it's definitely a tough time, tough period for college sports, I think, in general. But again, it's to me, it's shown great opportunity. I think it's also too really shown some light on how healthy, how I think elite level our football program is. And again, I'm not saying elite in terms of necessarily just the production, but the fact that the culture is so is so strong. I mean, there's only a few select programs in the whole country that can say that literally we had to push people out the door just because of limits of scholarship limits, that we just didn't have any more room for them. So it's a good problem to have, and it's especially for Dorn, being able to pick and choose. And I do want to ask you too, and we'll love to again hear people's comments either or people's thoughts here in the comments, or love to have you here on here with me to discuss it. But I do really want to hear, because there was some comments talking about, would you rather be a Clemson, Alabama level football program and not really have anything else athletics wise to really mention besides ever so often here or there great season from, a basketball team or women's basketball team, whatever that may be? Or would you rather have what I would consider more what State has right now, where you have, an ACC contending football program, you have a historical program, men's basketball program with, I think an upcoming roster. You got a women's basketball program that's been to a Final Four. You got baseball that went to Omaha 2 years ago. Like a much more evened out athletic program. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that here in the comments here. And again, if you want to join in here with me, make sure again hit that link there in the comments, and we'll make sure to bring you right in. So any information about the recruits who were at the NC State football camps and taking official visits this weekend? So with that being said, let's go and jump on our tweets of the week, so that way we can show a little bit kind of what we're talking about here, and let's talk about that actually. So with that being said, here we go. All right. So wanted to before we kind of talked about NC State football recruiting, I wanted to bring up this graphic from On3. So this weekend was huge between Alex Taylor, 4-star wide receiver Alex Taylor, actually had 3 4-stars, between Jonathan Paylor, Alex Taylor, and then Terrell Anderson. All 3 top 300 national recruits, all 4-star wide receivers. Jonathan Paylor, I know, has been a guy that I know. I think it was during last season that he tweeted out saying, the first school that I go to that chants my name is going to be the school I go to. And of course, the next unofficial visit he took was to State. And you daggone sure well know that we were saying his name during pregame, and I'm sure that he caught it. But between him, Terrell Anderson, Alex Taylor, again, all those guys have been heavily recruited by State for quite some time. I think right now, if you're looking at State's roster, you're seeing the opportunity. I think that on this roster right now that we have a lot of really good players, but we don't necessarily have that stud. I wouldn't necessarily say, especially now with Thayer Thomas gone. So I think the opportunity is there for playing time. I think the opportunity is there to develop. I think that, you have a young crew, with Kevin Concepcion, Terrell Timmons, and then, we have Javante Vereen, young freshman tight end. So, I think that if you're any one of those guys, Alex Taylor, Terrell Anderson, Jonathan Paylor, you're looking at NC State and you're going, man, I could go in and partner up with, Terrell, Casey, Javante, and with MJ Morris, and immediately from day one have a lot of playing time, and have an opportunity to play with some of the best up and coming talent, and compete in the ACC. So that's really kind of my 2 cents on it. I know there's a lot of momentum right now behind all 3 of these guys. I think that especially in recruiting, momentum is only goes for as long as the next up and coming official visit. So meaning that obviously this past weekend State had all 3 of these guys in town, but then once they take their next official visit, then obviously more likely that momentum is going to be affected. Now, if it goes towards that other school side, or if it stays a little bit NC State side, that's hard to say. And especially too, because again, one thing which is just to keep in mind, which is tough, is that again, these are all 17, 18-year-old kids, so they're, and especially with how many people they talk to, depending on how many people influence them, things like that, their decisions, their thought processes change on a daily basis, and so, that's why I think the biggest thing which I love about Doran is the fact that, that with all these guys that you, or sorry, not with all these guys, but with any recruit, honestly, that one of the biggest thing that I said is the family atmosphere. The relationships are strong with our recruiting staff, with current players, former players, even too. So for me, that's something which I feel really confident. I'm really excited that I'm seeing that baseline of that every single one of these guys we're going after, that they're more likely going to feel that relationship, that family environment here at State. But also, too, again, the opportunity, the up and coming opportunity. Like we're winning right now. We're getting better and better. We're competing against the top of the ACC. And again, like, an opportunity is there to 100% still make a name for yourself. So that's kind of really my other two, my biggest piece is that for me, if for any recruit right now, I'm saying, listen, like, we have a new scoreboard. Like, so again, facilities are getting upgraded. The uniforms are on point. The opportunities on point. Coaching staff is staying here. Like, Tony Gibson signed down long term. Anai, I'm sure if things go well, he'll be on here long term. Doran will be here as long as he wants to be. Like, nobody's going anywhere. ACC is as tough as it ever has been between Florida State, UNC, Miami. Duke is getting, pumped up. Pitt's going up. So, and then, academics wise, it's phenomenal. Like, to me, I'm really saying to recruit, what else could you possibly want? Like that's really my biggest thing right now. And I know that everything else might be NIL focused, and completely understand that. And especially in today's day and age, but I mean, every single scholarship player is guaranteed at least $25,000 a year, in just NIL, guaranteed at least. So, I mean, it's everything's there, man. I'm going to bring in my boy Macon here. Macon, you got me, man?
Yeah, man, you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, man. Yeah, no, man. It's funny. I had Greg on, who was riding down the road here to start the show, and now got you on here, man. So
I know. I'm on the recruiting trail. I'm trying to find us the latest and greatest commits for the class of 2024.
Let's go. I love it. Let's go. Yeah, no, man. What? And you couldn't come in at a better time, man. So give us a lowdown, man. What's the thoughts here on Alex Taylor, Terrell Anderson, Jonathan Paylor, and all those guys recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going off of what I've seen on social media, it definitely was portrayed that this is the biggest recruiting weekend State's had to this point this year for this recruiting class. And to me personally, like, the emphasis is on the receivers, because State's got guys on their team that can be players with, emphasis on can be. But none of them are, stars, in my opinion, just yet. Like Julian Gray, Anthony Smith, Terrell Timmons. Terrell Timmons maybe has been the one who's flashed the most. Keon Lassane, I don't know if I consider Keon Lassane a star. I consider him like a solid receiver.
Yeah.
So I'll put like,
yeah.
And these guys are, last year it was Noah Rogers and Nathan Leacock and those kinds of things. And both those guys, Rogers went on to Ohio State, Leacock went on to Tennessee, different things like that. But, you got these, new opportunities here with Alex Taylor, Terrell Anderson, who both go to the same high school, Grimsley. And you've got a guy like Keenan Jackson, who's a name who's not who we're really talking about, because you got a guy like Jonathan Paylor, who's a 4-star receiver as well. So to me, for these receivers, they need to. I really feel like State's going to have to figure out a way to get a couple of these guys. I feel like they have a good shot, and it sounds like from what the quotes I've seen, that a guy like Terrell Anderson might be a really good chance to get a guy like him. He seems to already have put up some good quotes out there, but I don't know, man. I realize that NIL has changed the name of the game, and I feel like for fans, it's going to become, we've posted so many times on the show, but just more and more about, if I think fans feel like, well, I can't afford to give, maybe you can't afford to give $100, but like, I think they think it's got to be some huge dollar amount to make an impact. Yeah. And I don't think that's the case. I think it is, if like we had as many State fans as we have, if every fan gave, $50, $100 a year, I mean, we're not talking a lot. Like that multiplies out to be a lot of money, and it helps out and kind of helps level the playing field. I don't know what's going to happen with some of these guys. I mean, there was commits there this weekend. State really put the full court press on these guys from what they can do. It's just a matter of continuing. I think for some of these guys, reminding them that State has been there the whole time they've been recruited, and realizing like, we're not just showing up at like, the ninth hour, the 11th hour. We've been here, since the beginning. Some of these guys, hey, we were your first offer, and we are building something special here. I think they can point to the development of I guess the ability that Doran has better than a lot of other coaches to develop talent, and that if your business is to go to the pros at the very least, well, State can prove they can do that for you. So I really think State, if they can just find a way to get these like a championship, I feel like the floodgates would open. But man, this list of guys you have here, they really excite me. Particularly those receivers. Ronnie Royal, I know is a guy on some sites lists him as a 4-star. He's a little bit of a smaller size safety nickel. Some places list him as an all-purpose back, but I think State's recruiting him as a DB. You know, if you watch his film, he hits hard. He kind of makes you think of a Tanner Engel kind of style, in my opinion. Marcus Maskell, I actually just saw he did commit to Florida today, so that's when I got off the board. Robbie Martin. Some sites have him as a 4-star. He's a guy, I think he is from West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong. But he is he's a guy I think State's recruiting at a guard position. You know, really good guy, really good get, I think, for State could get him. The other two I'm not as familiar with, but it was just a big weekend for State. They're going to have to capitalize it. They're going to have to survive some of these other visits because, hey, like, you know, Jonathan Paylor is, I think, you know, really leaning towards South Carolina in a lot of ways. I think Alex Taylor, I just saw a clip he put on Twitter. I think he was at some camp there. I don't know if it was just yesterday or whenever it was, or today. But these guys are going to get recruited by other big-time schools, and they've got money just like State does. They might have more money than State does. So it's not like it's just such a super obvious NC State is the better team, but it is a thing where, you know, there's a lot there in State's favor that a lot of the schools have to compete against for us recruits, right? They have to compete against us too. So I'm really hoping that this class we can get a few recruits. Particularly, I hope we can get a couple of these receivers, and that list of, I would say, of 4: Taylor, Anderson, Paylor, and Jackson. But there's some guys. You know, I think State's either just finishing up or just did finish up their summer camps, where a lot of these guys State has offered in the past will get an offer at these camps, and they end up being your pivotal pieces. I think one guy in particular I can think of is Jalen Samuels, right? He's a guy who got an offer at NC State camp when he was being recruited and ended up being one of the best players State's ever had. So there's some guys even that aren't on this list and you're sharing your screen lane where they could really be big time get. I'll give you an example. State just landed this past week a running back from Rollsville High School, Isaiah Jones. I think it's Isaiah Jones. Yep, 3-star running back. You know, I think this is a guy. The way how quickly State offered tells me he was a no-brainer from an offer standpoint. You look at some pictures he's posted. That dude is built the kind of way you want a running back to be built. I don't know his numbers, but he tested it. But just those kind of things, guys get offers and they commit. You know, the camps are just as big as these official visitors are too. So I want to make sure I just kind of highlight that point a little bit. And I'm kind of wrapping my spiel. But man, I love this time of year. You're building for the future, and it's so cool to me because you can see some of these guys commit. And it's the story of, yeah, this guy was committed and he was so-and-so and had these offers. And he ended up, you know, looking back at, you know, look at Russell Wilson. He had 2 offers, right? State and Duke. And now you can look back on it and it's a cool thing of the progression of who he was. Nobody wanted him, so to speak, except Duke and us. And he ends up being a Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. And it's just stories like that. Jacoby Myers comes in as a quarterback, transfers receiver. The rest is history, right? So, Jalen Samuels, you know, you go on a whole list of things. Even the big time recruits, like I think, Naeem Hines, yeah, big recruiting effort to get him, and now he's a pivotal piece for the Buffalo Bills. Was for the Colts for a little bit there, but it's cool. You can look at it in different ways. That this guy had little offers or this guy had a ton of offers. And either way, seeing how they progress is that's what's fun to me. And especially when you're in the off season and there's no football, there's no basketball, there's limited baseball on TV. I guess you're into baseball. There's a lot of TV, baseball on TV. I should say that. But like, for me, football and basketball are my favorite sports. Hockey just ended, right? So this to me is a way you can stay involved with college sports because there is a level of competition here, right? You're still competing with other schools to get these wins, so to speak. So, and generally speaking, the guys who get the better talent, generally on average, have the better potential for wins because they have greater, floors of talent kind of thing. So it's just really, it's really exciting to me, but it's really about getting these guys on campus, then believing in NC State. And I'm just excited to see what the staff can do with this class. We've already got a good start. So, yeah.
Yeah, Macon, I'm going to mute you while you're not talking. So whenever you do want to jump back in, just unmute yourself. But just because there's the feedback there, at least from my end. But yeah, no, I listen, just like Greg said, preach on. I loved everything you were saying, man. Completely agree. And especially because the biggest thing for me is I'm pretty sure it was Alex Taylor, for example, that Clemson told him to go take all of his official visits, which basically is basically Clemson saying, we have somebody else we're interested in. So to me, it's just, that's kind of the annoyance from me is when a school just like that is basically telling you outright, you're not our first choice.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, right. No, I'm listening to you. That's right.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no. Okay, cool. There's not as much feedback there. Sorry. Okay. Did you put headphones in or something? Now,
Okay,
okay.
you're good.
Yeah, no. For some reason, when I would when you were talking, I would say something, then I would hear myself. I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, but yeah, no. So like that's the thing that just bugs me is just like, listen, I mean, like Alex, you're getting everything here you need to, man. Just like I was saying before I brought you on here, bro. Like everything you're looking for is right here. Because the biggest thing, one of the biggest things I would say about South Carolina is, I mean, right now, I mean, they're recruiting their heads off, recruiting as many, big guys as they can, but also too, the fact that, they're still working their way up to even be relevant in the SEC, and that's not a knack, saying they're not good or whatever, but just unfortunately the SEC is just very, very, top heavy. And, but if you come to NC State, we beat Clemson 2 years ago. We went to Death Valley, a top 10 team in the country, and,
right.
And gave, Clemson a heck of an effort. And, it took, DJ Uyungale's best, game of the year in order to beat us, so, that's why I'm saying, everything here that you need, that you're looking for is right here. So, yeah, I think, and the biggest thing, which I would say about Noah Rogers for last year's, I still really do sell on the fact that I think that when Ohio State, I'm 90% sure Ohio State more likely told him that they were more likely looking at, if Noah didn't commit, that they were going to look at somebody else to fill his scholarship spot. And I'm sure more likely he probably got pressure and Noah Rogers committed on the spot, which, the school like Ohio State, I don't necessarily, hate it. It's again, a top 5, depending on who you're talking to, college football program in the country right now. So I don't necessarily hate it, especially if you got, man, the wide receiver alumni class they have between Michael Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson. They have some big name wide receivers that have come out of Ohio State. So I don't necessarily blame them for that. So I think that was just more time than anything else too. The fact that I think that now you can really sell all 3 of these guys, Alex Taylor, Terrell Anderson, and Jonathan Paylor, on MJ Morris, to be like, you've seen what this guy can do. And this guy and this quarterback has committed to, again, at least from what we've seen, committed to learning the playbook, developing, and then, starting next year, he's lock and loaded, ready to go, ready to light his hair on fire. You know what I mean? So,
right,
and these guys could be a part of that. So, yeah, so that's kind of really my biggest things there on that. But Michelle Simmons said here in the comments, the recruiting process reminds me of residency match for pharmacy residents. Yeah, which I agree.
It's just to me, it's building. It's like you find these guys, you have no idea what their potential is. You maybe have a guess, but these are the battles that are won in the off season that help build your program for the future. So it's like this. I'm trying to think who's the stars on the team right now. Savion Jackson was a 4-star defensive lineman, big get.
Peyton Wilson.
Hey, Wilson. Hey, I mean, that was a huge thing. He committed to UNC and State got him to flip.
Yeah.
The Drake Thomas, those guys left the team, offense. I mean, you had, Ike Aquana is one of the coolest stories, right? Because he had like a 3-star guy and his brother went to Notre Dame and none of these guys saw potential in him and his state saw, and he was the first offensive player drafted like 2 drafts ago. Like that's just what's so cool, man. Like it's so like so that they buy in NC State, they have a great career and they end up doing great in the pros. Those are the most fun ones to me. So
And I think the other thing too, which Hunter even mentions here as well, is that this new offense is what he's hoping flips the narrative for in-state wide receivers to stay home, and I think that definitely will play a huge part. If like a guy like Keon is saying, or a guy like Porter Rooks, can have a big year if the offense can look as good as it did, during a nice time at Syracuse or at Virginia, then I think that's just even more cherry on top. Being like this is an offense that is designed around getting the ball to the best guys, and giving them opportunity to be successful. Which I think all of us can agree we weren't necessarily sold that with Tim Beck's offense that you had that. So I think that would be a huge key if the offense can. Because last year I think that really did hurt us as well, the fact that we relied so many games on our defense to win it for us. So I think that might be another big thing as well, is that if we can get some firepower on this offense, that we can say we won these games because of our offense. While I think with last year was a lot of games saying we won it because of our defense. You know what I mean? So I think that might be a big piece as well. But yeah, so exciting stuff here in the recruiting cycle, man. So Megan, I appreciate you giving me all this insight, man. Are you able to stick around? You got to jump here,
I'm
man?
good, man. I'm here.
Oh,
I'm
let's
just
go.
camera off, but I'm here.
Let's do it. All right, cool. So and by the way, too, Megan, Greg said I'm just glad I called it before making, because there's no way I could follow this. So
Greg, it's hard to follow up Greg. I'm just glad I didn't hear what he had to say. If I'm just saying the same thing he already said, then y'all just getting, double the helping of it. But I just love recruiting. Greg's just nuts of a fan. So there you go.
Exactly right. Yeah, no, we were talking football, baseball, transfer portal stuff at the time of Can Peoples and all that jazz. So yep, nope,
Gotcha.
definitely not football recruiting. But I did want to bring up this next one, which you had sent to me, Macon, which I did think was hilarious. But oh man, Macon jumped off. But Macon actually sent me this, but also 2 on 3 pointed out how Southern California is now featuring the Big Ten patch on during their recruiting photo visits. So to me, that's just it's just crazy to once again it's an odd era we live in, that now you're seeing Big 12 Big 10 patches on Southern California jerseys. That historic Southern California uniform now is Big 10 on instead of Pac-12. It's a crazy time, but again, they're not in the Big Ten this coming season, but obviously they're I guess these recruits are going to be coming in when USC makes the switch. Am I correct on that, Megan?
I think that's correct.
Yeah, pretty sure that's correct.
That's correct. To me, the thing when I take from this, it just still blows my mind, is like, so the TV things, it's even a stretch from a football standpoint. I mean, money-wise, it makes sense, right? More money, it's going to be better for you in that regard.
Sure.
But can you imagine, like, Rutgers flying to go play UCLA?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's going to happen. UCLA flying to go play Rutgers. Because I use those as an example, because I think they're the farthest. I think I saw somewhere those are the 2 farthest away now in the Big Ten. Like,
because Rutgers is in Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. New Jersey. Yep. And then
my whole thing with that is, like, to me, this tells me that the people who signed all of this up and set all up, unless they're going to let the non-revenue sports pick up like different, let them be different things. It's just not going to, like, unless they're going to be in different conferences that are more local. To me, this tells me they don't care about those non-revenue sports. All they care about is football. It's big business. I mean, they can say, we are for the student athlete. this move tells me that you guys do not care. You thought about football only and making money. I mean, the softball Rutgers or softball Northwestern going to play USC on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
it's going to be
awful.
miserable for these students. They're going to have to figure out how to get their own budget set up differently. Now, I will say they'll have more money to figure that out, but still. So.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Yeah, it's, and again, that's where we are. I mean, that's the narrative. I think that I completely agree with you. Is just so obvious and screamed here, and it's unfortunate, especially again for us, NC State, that love all of our sports. Between wrestling and and volleyball and you name it. All of our sports, we love all of them, and the fact that that USC is basically saying, best of luck to y'all. Hope it works out for y'all, especially because UCLA, USC, they have great athletic programs. They're like, shoot, heck, one of the funniest things was watching both of them compete in beach volleyball for the national championship. I was like, man, this is exciting. This is cool, and I'm sure obviously them going to the Big Ten probably won't change much for them, but it's just like. Just saying, there's no slouch in all the other teams, that they have in these programs. But yeah, there's no doubt they're focusing on football, and to each.
Yeah, I mean, me, I also get curious. My thought is we keep focusing on football here, right?
Yeah.
I always get curious what other schools, what other team matchup would be interesting. Like, right, because USC football playing Penn State or Michigan or whatever, that's exciting. Are there any other sports that are exciting to think about them playing, like maybe UCLA versus Michigan basketball? Like, are there other sports that USC and UCLA offer that are really exciting for fans? Because I don't know if it's me. I think it truly comes back to it's all about football. Like, basketball is next, and UCLA has a huge history, so I could see them, getting sold matchups on some of these other big schools that were a bit like UCLA versus Michigan State. I'm blanking on other teams.
Well, and I know that I'm pretty sure women's lacrosse is pretty big, and also because literally there was I'm looking at USC's website right now, and there was a $10 million gift to fund for a new stadium for Southern California's women's soccer and lacrosse team. So that's pretty big, $10 million for a women's soccer field and lacrosse field. Big. So obviously they care about that for sure. But and again, because especially, women's soccer is pretty big there too. But yeah, nothing in terms of big eye candy necessarily.
I could maybe, unless I don't think I know volleyball is probably big for USC and UCLA, but I don't know what have it big for some of these other schools. So.
Yeah, agreed. But again, especially because it's just hard to believe that money-wise they're really hurting because Southern California is probably one of the most impressive celebrity, alumni groups, in college sports. Shoot, Will Ferrell alone is a highlight enough. But there's so
LeBron James's son, Bronny James, is now going to commit to play for USC. So
for basketball, not football. So no, I completely agree. So and another thing too, which Hunter points out here too, is that from a brand and economic standpoint in the area, the fact that again Raleigh has year after year been recognized as one of the top two places from a young adult business person. To be at just because of the huge opportunities, just right on Centennial campus. There's a lot of businesses that have their offices on Centennial campus. But then,
I would add, I think baseball for UCLA, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were there in 2013 when we went to Omaha. Could be wrong about that. I think they did. And there might be some baseball matchups there that'll be interesting, but.
Yeah,
I think just kind of put a bow on it to me. I just think it's just that's the first time I've seen a Big Ten logo on anything USC or UCLA. That's different, but okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and Greg points out here to kind of wrap this topic up that that we put $15 million in our baseball stadium upgrades. So that's 2/3 of what we put into baseball, they're putting into the new stadium for women's soccer and their women's lacrosse team. So,
and I guess maybe a closing, like again, and another little bit to wrap it up. Maybe for a comment, as those watching, maybe who will watch this later on too. Is there if State were to, and somehow hypothetically speaking, were to leave the ACC, which I have get mixed feelings on personally, but what was there another conference you'd like to see them go to? Because I'd be curious about that.
For me, Big Ten. I mean, just Big Ten, just specifically because of the wrestling would be crazy. To see them compete against Iowa.
I'm SEC. That's what I think about.
Yeah, no, I'm more of picking the Big Ten just because most people are probably going to say SEC. So I'm just trying to, just be kind of the truther on the one side, being like, but think about the wrestling opportunities, man, competing against, Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Penn State. Like the competition, the Big Ten would be far superior with what we get right now, and and not hating on the ACC, but just there's a lot more options there for wrestling. But
who has the best wrestling team in the SEC right now?
Man, SEC.
I have no idea.
I am thinking.
South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia.
I was gonna say, start naming them. And
Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Auburn, Alabama, Missouri, Vanderbilt.
Missouri's not bad. Missouri's pretty good. So yeah, I mean, there's not a lot. Greg said Conference USA.
Yeah. To your point, Big Ten is the wrestling school, but I don't know. I just think State culturally probably fits in more with the SEC, hey, if you got to go play football outdoors, I'd rather go play it in the warm more likely than the cold.
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree with you there. And Hunter did point out, UCLA. I mean, UCLA has a great baseball program, and they were actually the team that we lost to on that Trey Turner bomb that in any other time somehow would have found its way out of stadium, but for some reason it got held up in the outfield and was caught. So so UCLA would offer a lot for the baseball side for sure. So but again, to wrap this thing up, I did want to bring on this other tweet you had sent as well, talking about John Morville as well, talking about how they're going to be producing a film along with Meadowlark and Backstage Media to bring you the story of David Skywalker Thompson with Nelson George attached to direct. And he said, and I quote from John, "These are the type of stories myself and partner Mike Silver envisioned when we started Backstage Media." So again, hey, that's pretty awesome. And I'd be interested if it's more like a documentary or if it's more like it
would be awesome.
Well, like what's it called? Like like having somebody play David Thompson, and like reenact like a reenact film, because there's like documentaries and then there's like reenact films. Kind of like Glory Road, where they reenact the events that took place. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But just something to keep an eye out for. And I think it's a great story. I mean, especially again, a guy that I think we all can agree does not get as much love as he should. I mean, again, for anybody who knows truly anything about David Thompson's career and the history of ACC, I think, if you have both of those guidelines, you can easily agree that David Thompson is the best basketball player the ACC has ever seen. So it's a great story. And I know for Derek Wittenberg, and especially now that David Thompson and his Nuggets now have won their first team title, what a better time to do it,
Yeah, I think that some NC State fans even don't even remember or recognize, especially the young people who just don't know, like, how awesome he was. Like, I think he was the only players ever to be drafted. I think it was the ABA and the NBA, number one overall. His number is retired in the NBA. How many players have their jersey number retired?
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just honored. Like, State honors. Like, State only has retired one jersey. And that was David Thompson's number 44. Like, all the other jerseys hanging there are just like they're honor jerseys. So it's just, I think it'll be awesome. I'll be very curious to see how it comes out, where he's caught this documentary, how they tell the story of David Thompson, that kind of thing. And to your point, where you talk about him being the greatest player in the ACC history, I think it's pretty cool when you hear all these other ACC NBA greats who, when they start talking about who are the greatest players, you can just feel in the room, so to speak, that everybody's like, oh, Michael Jordan's got to be the answer. Like, because people don't know, they don't know. And it's like, no, it's David Thompson, and you got to recognize greatness. And I think it's cool because these guys have, like, it's like you would feel like they would be obligated to go ahead and say, oh, Michael Jordan, or
of course,
whoever, I don't know, those kind of guys, James Worthy, Tim Duncan, the list goes on, and it's like, no, it's that guy.
No, it's David Thompson. It's not even a conversation. Absolutely. And again, because of the fact that I think also too, I think a huge hats off thing, and to even on top of it, is the fact that he was so successful in college. He won a national championship, got selected number 1 overall, went on, had a Hall of Fame NBA career, and then had his number retired by the team that he played for in the Denver Nuggets. I mean, there's not many players in sports history who have that much continued success. From the moment that they enter college, they were successful, to the time that they entered the NBA, to the time that they left the NBA. They were successful the whole way through. It wasn't like how somebody who played really great in college but then kind of fell off in the NBA, or a guy that wasn't really talked about much in college but then all of a sudden hit his stride in the NBA. Like, he was great in both, which I think is some which doesn't, you don't see a lot of that these days, which obviously today's day and age is a lot different than it was back in 74. But because another thing too, I think that his whole story too could have changed if NC State was able to play in 73 when they went undefeated. So So, and also too, Greg points out another big thing about David Thompson, about how he actually wasn't eligible to play on the varsity team as a true freshman in high school. So, just to add to it, that, if you would have had the extra year to develop as a freshman playing on the varsity team, then maybe that would have been different. But,
I just think it's going to be really cool to see how they tell the story of David Thompson, and
absolutely.
Exciting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Macon, for joining us, brother. Appreciate it, man. And and thank you to Hunter, who joined us here on the show. Thank you to everybody here joining us in the comments. Michelle, thank you, Greg, for joining in the comments as well. Thank you to everybody. Really appreciate all the support. Again, hopefully you enjoyed this show at the very least, for sure. Got a lot of insight from the football's, recruiting side, talking a little bit of baseball, transfer portal, talking a little bit of, everything. So, make sure, again, if you haven't already, we have a lot of new stuff going on. We have a new TikTok out there, so make sure to go and follow us on TikTok now. I know, so we got that rolling now. So make sure to go and do that. And then obviously, if you haven't already, again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you enjoyed this conversation, and also make sure to give us a follow Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter and Instagram. We really appreciate all the support, y'all. We will continue to roll here as we get closer to football. We'll make sure to bring more and more football-focused content here as we get closer. And with that being said, we'll talk to y'all soon. As always, go Pack, y'all.
Go Pack.